Hi dear friends, 2023 is about to finish and 2024 is going to commence. And this 2024 will be the best year for you if you follow my tips. In this video, I'm going to give you a detailed plan of how to develop your English, your confidence, your communication skills. Now, this 2024 is very important year of your life. If you are not improving in 2024, then I'm sorry, the chances are very bleak that you will improve in 2025. 2023 is gone. Forget about that. Now decide how you are going to plan for 2024. Remember, this is not a resolution. Resolutions are broken. This is commitment. I want commitment from you. In this video, I will tell you how to have detailed plan each month, how we are going to plan for 2024. Let us move forward. First of all, understand to develop your English, your confidence, your fluency. You don't need grammar, you need consumption. Inward consumption and outward consumption. In inward consumption, we have three important factors. Inward, consume English inward through number one, reading, number two, listening a podcast. Number one, reading, number two, listening a podcast. You have to consume inside. And number three, vocabulary development through reading and through writing. This is inward consumption. Outward consumption, again now, outward consumption. Now, outward consumption means what? Outward means express, use English to communicate. And communication is done through two ways. First is speaking and second is writing. So I'm going to give you a detailed plan for the next 1 year. On the basis of inward and outward consumption, let us move forward. Now, let us consider the first 3 months, January, February, and March. In these 3 months, how you should plan. Inward consumption, first of all, I tell you. First, I already have told you that inward consumption and outward consumption. Inward consumption, take inside. Reading, listening a podcast, and vocabulary development. You must give sufficient time for this. Let us take reading. Start reading with simple storybooks, and the time given is 30 minutes. Sufficient. Don't give beyond that. Otherwise, what happens is people start with a lot of zeal and pomp and energy, but then they lose the momentum and the energy and they leave it. Promise me that you are not going to leave. It's a commitment. And in the comments, you have to write, "Sir, I am committed for 2024. Let us see if you write it or not. Let us see. If you write, then you are committed. Only then you are committed. Write down in the comments, I am committed for 2024. Let us move forward. Reading is done. Vocabulary development. 30 minutes for that. It will go hand in hand with your reading. Vocabulary and reading will go hand in hand. And then number 3 consumption is a podcast. Now listen a podcast every day for 30 minutes. But start with a simple podcast. That is my podcast. My podcast is easy to understand. I don't use jargons. I have Indian accent. Second is you can go with Times of India podcast. Next podcast is The Hindu. Again, it's Indian accent, very simple. Then you can go with another simple podcast, 7 Good Minutes. Simple and easy to understand. And it's very easy to understand, not difficult accent or difficult jargons used. Simple podcast, very powerful and motivational. Also, you can go with Business English podcast. Again, it's very simple, easy to understand, analysis is properly done there. These are the simple podcasts which you have to listen. Now we have finished inward consumption. Now outward consumption for January, February, and March. Outward, speak for 30 minutes. Not beyond that. Sufficient 30 minutes. Speak for 30 minutes every day. Decide what time you're going to do it. And if you have any problem with speaking, if you don't have surrounding, we have online sessions. You can join that. Outward. And now, in outward, another factor is the writing. Bring writing in your everyday use. Use writing in your everyday lifestyle. For example, you're making a shopping list, you are typing your WhatsApp message, you're writing an email, everywhere, bring English and write 30 minutes. I repeat again, inward consumption and outward consumption for the first 3 months. Let us go ahead and for the next 3 months, let us see how to plan now. Now for 3 months, April, May and June, what you have to do? Inward consumption, reading will go to 45 minutes. Increase the time to 45 minutes. What to read? Storybooks plus again add new now. Sudhamurthy books. Sudhamurthy books. They are very easy, but they are not very simple also as compared to storybooks. So add Sudhamurthy books, and she has written a lot of books. I mean, 7-8 books. So they are sufficient for you for the next 3 months. Go and buy them from Amazon. I have given the links in the description. You can buy from there also. So first is reading, and now second is vocabulary. 45 minutes for vocabulary now. Vocabulary writing and vocabulary revision. It will go hand in hand with reading. Next point is inward consumption, that is podcast. Now we will upgrade the podcast and we will listen to better podcasts. Start with my podcast, stick with that. Then Hidden Brain, another interesting podcast I listen. You can go with Work Life by Adam Grant. It's very nice podcast. Go with that. Upgrade yourself. Then the next podcast is School of Greatness. It's average, you can understand that. No problem, I'm sure you will understand that. It will be very interesting for you, and it has a lot of good content. This is very interesting. I mean, you will get various kind of accents there, different speakers are there. Of course, this is from TED. This will help you to understand different accents and develop your English very nicely. Getting my point? Now, this is inward consumption. Now let us go with the outward consumption for these 3 months. Speaking, increase the time by 45. Now from 30 to 45 minutes. It's very important. Speaking is very important, the key factor. And next is bring writing in your daily life now. As already I have told you, but speaking is very crucial. But one more thing you have to do. If you don't understand a podcast, use my 2 senses method. Videos I have given, everything is properly given, or I will give the link of the videos in the description. Go with the 2 senses method. Now the next 3 months, July, August and September. Inward consumption now. Now see the plan, inward consumption plan. Read, but now upgrade your reading material. Sudhamurthy is finished. Now go with Times of India blogs and Times of India daily simple news. Now you can also read Ruskin Bond's storybooks. They are a bit higher than Sudhamurthy. So raise your reading bar. Raise your reading bar. Go with Times of India blogs. Go with Times of India simple news, or go with Ruskin Bond. But now reading time has to be increased. It should be at least 1 hour to 1 hour and 30 minutes every day. Now when to read, that plan I will give you in the next video. But reading is a must. Second is vocabulary. Vocabulary will take 45 minutes at least. You can even give 1 hour for this. Every day you have to give 45 minutes to 1 hour. Sometimes you can give less time if you are very busy. But vocabulary revision must be done every day. How to build a vocabulary? Some videos I have made before. Watch those videos. Now, reading, vocabulary and podcast. Now let me tell you which podcast you must listen now. Now stop listening the previous podcast and upgrade yourself to these podcasts. Mel Robbins. It's a very good podcast of Mel Robbins. You will understand also, and the English is quite simple and easy to understand. Go with this podcast. Next is The Science of Success. Very good podcast. Different speakers come there with different accents, but the English is very simple. Now you will be familiar with US English. You will be familiar with UK English, because now you have improved yourself. Now you have spent more time, nearly more than 6 months, listening a podcast. So definitely you can understand these podcasts. Coaching for Leaders is one more podcast which you can listen. It's also very nice. If you're a corporate employee, you must listen to this podcast. The Mind Valley podcast with Vision, very nice podcast. And it's not very simple, but you have to upgrade yourself. Listen to this podcast. So this finishes our inward consumption. Let us go to outward consumption. Increase the time of speaking now, more than 1 hour. Whenever possible, increase the time to more than like 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes. Speak that. Already I have told you, writing should come there. Write more and more and more every day. So this finishes our inward and outward consumption. Let's go to the last 3 months. They are very important. October, November and December 2024 plan. Inward consumption will be fictional and non-fictional books. Fictional, you can go with books like Harry Potter. Non-fictional, you can go with books like autobiographies. Now upgrade yourself. Now you have really have the habit of 9 months of reading with you, and now there will be no problem with you. Reading will be easier for you. You have sufficient vocabulary also. And let me tell you now, vocabulary development will go slowly now, because now you have sufficient vocabulary and very seldom, very rarely you will find new words with you. Now let us talk about the podcast. Habit of Success is an excellent podcast. I listen to this podcast every day now. Now you have to listen those podcasts which I listen, because you are in the final year now, or the final quarter, final part of this year, the last 3 months. TED Business is another podcast where it's all about business. It's all about the strategies. It's all about the planning and communication skill and all. If you're into business, I mean, not only business, but if you're an employee, listen to this podcast. This is a higher level podcast. You should not listen to now easy podcasts. Even I say don't listen to my podcast, but listen to TED Business podcast. Think Fast, Think Smart is another excellent podcast which you must listen. It's about thought process, it's about cognitions, it's about psychology, it's about how to think in the right way. And different guests come there, different topics are selected there. You will get a lot of knowledge from this podcast. Jai Shetty podcast is another excellent podcast which you should go with. Jai Shetty is an Indian American who is an excellent orator, and the work he's doing is amazing. So Jai Shetty podcast is very crucial podcast for developing your English and good communication skill, and also developing your right mindset, guys. Now, inward consumption is done, outward consumption. Speak a lot now. You can speak for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And it is possible now. Many people say that, sir, I can't speak more than 10 minutes or half an hour continuously. There will be no problem now. Now you will be able to speak continuously for 1 or 2 hours also, because you have put in efforts for the last 9 months. Why can't you? Why shouldn't you? You will be able to do that. And of course, writing will be always there. So hope you enjoyed this video. It was a detailed plan for the year 2024. The video was lengthy, I know that, but if you have the patience to watch this video, only then you will have the patience to follow the tips given for 2024. Keep this in mind. You decide what to do. Thank you. Goodbye.